Good afternoon, everyone. I am GoLocal Live correspondent Chelsea Gay here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Our first guest today is Kristen Haseotes from the Above the Noise Foundation, and she's here to talk with us today about an awesome event going on this weekend at McCoy Stadium, Recovery Fest.
Recovery Fest,
yes.
2018.
So thank you so much for coming on the show, Kristen.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about the organization and your background before we get into the festival. I know it's really exciting, but let's hear a little about you.
So my background, I am sort of a reluctant founder of an organization called Above the Noise. I say reluctant not because it's not a privilege and a joy. It's because I'm a business person who found recovery 35 years ago.
Okay.
And today we have 180 people a day dying of overdose, and we have 72,000 people in our country a year dying of overdose, and that doesn't include people dying of health-related issues or suicide. So I felt it was time that anybody who has ever been on the other side of recovery really kind of step up and do something.
And I saw you guys talk a lot about the stigma of addiction as well, and and how recovery differs from sobriety. You know, there's all these different terms that are used. How is Above the Noise involved in the stigma of addiction?
You know, you're very bright to pick that up. I mentioned my experience 30-something years ago. Nobody talked about having an issue with substances. Yeah. It was taboo. There was a stigma to it. You didn't talk about your father, your brother, your son. I went into business and really stopped talking about the fact that I had an issue with drugs and alcohol. The stigma is what keeps people silent. It's what keeps people from asking for help. So we really do, me telling my story, I hope that inspires other people to say it's okay to tell their story and to ask for help.
And elaborate on that a little more, the importance of getting rid of the stigma for addiction. I mean, I know now with a lot of celebrities coming forward, you know, it's become more acceptable, but how does getting rid of the stigma help?
Well, stigma is what keeps people quiet. And, you know, if 1 in 3 households are affected by addiction, if everybody at this point knows somebody, has somebody they love who is battling, if we don't talk about it, we put a barrier between us and people getting help. I think that musicians coming out telling their story is such a wonderful thing. Musicians and music and drugs over the course of time have always been interconnected, and now I feel like musicians are really being role models and leading us out of that whole stigma of music and drugs. That's why for our concerts it's a sober event, because we feel like music and festivals are so interconnected with alcohol and drugs, and we want people to feel safe coming. Some people are struggling and they're newly clean and sober, and we want it to be a safe place for everybody.
Yeah. And speaking of role models, it really seems like this event is blowing up. Macklemore is the headliner, for anybody that doesn't know. How did this ramp up? How did Above the Noise get to this point? And what have you guys been doing since the inception of the organization to get here with Macklemore Saturday?
You know, James Montgomery, who's a Rhode Island Hall of Fame blues musician, and I sat in Newport, Rhode Island, and said, let's put together a festival with you and a bunch of your musicians that you played with who have either had issues with substances or who have lost loved ones or band members and let's put something together. So James, we sat there from that moment to now. We reached out through our connections all over the country to find artists who are willing to participate, and Macklemore has been open about his journey, and as have Fits and the Tantrums.
Yep, another.
Paris, who's a great local Boston band, has jumped on board because they're passionate about helping other people. So we have 2 events really. We have a festival during the day, and then we have a concert in the evening. So we'll have a wide range of artists from all genres there.
Great, that's awesome. And so walk us through a little bit about, I know you guys were talking with me earlier about the 2 p.m. piece before the event.
Right.
don't want to call it a tailgate, but a pre-event experience. What's happening there?
So the festival begins at 2 p.m. Okay. There'll be a stage. James Montgomery again will have an all-star lineup of the original band members from Santana, the Doobie Brothers, the band Boston, Dwayne Dobsey, who's a great New Orleans Zydeco performer, Grace Kelly, who's a great jazz saxophone player, lots of other band members. There will be an ensemble of great musicians in the festival area outside the stadium. There will also be meeting tents, so there'll be AA meetings and NA meetings and yoga and health and wellness and information from national recovery organizations. The fire department will talk about Narcan training, which is helps save somebody's life who may be overdosing. So you'll come to the festival, you'll hear great music, but hopefully you'll learn something and you'll be able to really be part of a community. There'll also be things for children to do because a lot of people bring their families, which is wonderful because it'll be a safe place. That's the festival area. At 4 o'clock, the gates will open to the stadium, and inside the stadium, there'll be 170 to 80 nonprofits, local grassroots organizations that, work every day to try to save lives. These are mothers or fathers or sisters or brothers, or just people who have started groups that are just doing everything they can to help make a difference with this epidemic. And that will be the outer ring of the festival. And then, of course, we have the musical acts. There's one exciting part. We had an indie band contest. So we had bands from all over the country who had some connection to recovery, whether it's themselves or a loved one. And they competed in the indie band contest.
Awesome.
So one of our first performers will be the winner of that indie band contest.
Great, wow. And so you're settled in Florida. I know, we just
Naples,
chatted about
Florida.
this, I'm jealous. But so what brings this festival to Pawtucket, to McCoy Stadium, to Rhode Island? I mean, how did we settle here?
Well, I grew up in New England.
Okay.
That's very special to me. James Montgomery is from Rhode Island, and Pawtucket was a great partner for us. There's so many communities that are hard hit by our opioid crisis, but Pawtucket was one that really opened their arms to hosting us at the stadium, which we're very grateful for.
Wow, that is incredible. And you talk about how festivals are generally associated with drinking and with drugs, and so when you strip all that away, what is the experience that you hope that people have? I guess a two-part question. What do you hope the experience is, and then what do you hope the takeaway is for people?
We hope this is the beginning. The festival, we hope that we know that it is going to provide a great show. We know that people will learn something. I say that people that are there are either in recovery, love someone in recovery, sadly have lost somebody in recovery. And for those who just came to hear Macklemore or Fitz, by the end of the evening, they will love people in recovery because it will be a night where people come together with love, and it will be powerful. The takeaway, I think that we do have an idea that we'd like people to do 4 things. We'd like people to tell their story. I told my story not because I walk around telling my story, it's just that I feel like if someone hears my story, maybe that will help them take the next step. Okay. We also feel like there's 23 million people living in long-term recovery, with another 21 million trying to get there. So we need to use that power to change things. We need to invest in companies that support recovery. Yeah. We need to, whatever community you're in, if you have a business that supports you, support them back. CVS has been a wonderful sponsor. Cumberland Farms is a great partner. We really do feel that there's power in this, and that will help us make a change. The next thing we hope people do is really have somebody who is suffering make that connection, because connection is what's going to save lives. Yeah. So if somebody is struggling, we hope somebody takes somebody by the hand and helps them through it, goes the extra mile, gives them rides, gives them a job, gives them a place to live. Because together we can make a difference. That's the takeaway. And we also, excuse me for forgetting the most important thing, we're registering people to vote. Michelle
Wow.
Obama's Get Out the Vote initiative is a big part of what we're doing. So the recovery community is a big part of a voter population that hasn't been tapped into. And so we're we're registering people there, and hopefully that will create a change as well.
Wow, that's great. And like you said, I mean, addiction is something that has, I'm sure, touched everyone in some way. And, you know, if someone that's watching or someone that's watching that may know someone that's going through or suffering from an addiction, what would you say to them as the first step, just to...
The first thing I'd say...
Before they go to the concert.
The first thing I'd say, come to the concert. Show up. If you can't afford a ticket, come and we will get you in the door. We want people there. And it's, the first thing I would say is reach out to somebody. There are people, you know, all of the proceeds from the event go to these local grassroots organizations. For instance, the local fire department right in Pawtucket, they have a safe house which you can go if you are struggling, and they will help keep you safe. They'll help you help find a bed. Come to the concert, learn more about what great people out there are doing to help each other.
Awesome. And so after the dust settles on this great event, what is next for the organization? Do you guys hold, you know, monthly meetings or events, or what do you guys, or is it just next year's big event coming up?
No, we really do hope to be in other communities. We've been asked already to come to all sorts of, you know, there's communities all over the country that are suffering. We are really inspired by the lives that have been touched by the idea of not only coming together in a safe environment, listening to music, having people care about recovery, but we hope that we hope to be in other communities across the country.
Great. Well, thank you, Kristen, so much for joining us today. Yeah. Tickets are still available for the concert this weekend at recoveryfest2018.com.
Yes.
I think I got that right.
Yes.
Did I get that right? Awesome.
Thank
well,
you.
it was so great to have you.
Likewise.
You are an awesome individual.
Thank you.
Just met her, but she's great.
Thank you very much.
And we hope you guys head out to the festival this weekend.
Thank you.
Oh, before I go, you know, I really wanted to ask you if you can share anything. Can I come visit you in Naples?
Yes.
No. I really wanted to ask you if you could share with us either an inspiring story from your own life or maybe another inspiring story of recovery that you've encountered through Above the Noise. If there's just one that you could come up with.
There's thousands. Every day we posted something on our website that said if you would like to come to this concert and you can't afford a ticket, just reach out to us. We have hundreds a day of people who have struggled for years, that are clean and sober now, that have a get-well job, that they are trying to make ends meet, that may have just gotten custody of their children back, but music was what made them feel alive and gave them hope. And that's a story that we hear 1,000 times a day. So we know that this type of event will make a difference, and we just hope that we can do more of these, but we will. Thank you.
So in 10 years, is that the hope? We've got, no, less than 10 years, but you know, in 10 years, where is Above the Noise? We're doing festivals.
We hope we are out of business. We hope that this...
There's no more.
We hope this epidemic is no longer the number one health crisis in the country. We hope that, and we see it now, that recovery is discovery of yourself, and it's what everybody tries to achieve. But we also know that it's going to take some time. But we really believe that we're going to have a crowd of 12,000 people.
Wow!
And those people, they will hopefully leave that stadium and know that they are part of a group that is admired and is loved and are heroes.
Wow. That's an awesome sentiment. I appreciate it.
Thank
and
you.
I know people are going to ask, how do you get involved on the volunteer side of this? Is there a way that people can work with Above the Noise
Sure.
as a volunteer?
Sure.
How do we do
Just
that?
go to our website, and we'd love to have you.
Okay.
We would love to have you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Kristen, thanks again so
you.
much
Thank
for
you.
coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
And hope the event is a great success, as
Thank
I'm
you.
sure it will be. And we'll look forward to those updates, as I'm sure we'll get, and videos and all sorts of awesome stuff.
Thank you.
So thank you guys for tuning in. We will be right back with our next guest.
Thank you.